Hi there, welcome to a special extended version of my 10-minute morning. This one is going to be massive. In this episode, I show you what I uncovered after my 2,000-mile trip to the front line of the immigration border in Europe, which is in Greece. I travelled to the island of Lesbos and I saw some madness. This video I'm going to break it into two sections. The first half will be telling you about the very strange experiences I encountered while I was there, and in the second half I'll provide you with the evidence that I found after being spooked. I'm going to be honest with you with what I seen there, and when I started looking into things further, I am so convinced that a European immigration problem is going to skyrocket between now and 2027, and I'll provide the evidence for that. Sit back and listen, because this is big. So what happened, I wanted to get to the centre of where the action is with European immigration, to just see from my own eyes what was going on, document it and share what I found with you guys. And what I've experienced was certainly not what I expected. What I thought I was going to do was go out and see people coming off beaches and getting put into asylum centres. And the trip would have been worth it if that's what happened. But that's not what happened. What happened? I was in the middle of some really peculiar, strange things that went on. And the amount of strange things that I'll cover, and I'll show you footage to back up what I'm telling you, situations that I found myself in, which did spook me. I'll be honest with you, I'm a big lad, do you know what I mean? I'm not shy. But I was spooked. I was 2,000 miles away from home, I was alone, I was myself, and at some points, I even lost all communications. And because of those things, now the things that I'm going to show you, quite a lot of them, if one or two of them had happened in this trip, I probably wouldn't have gave it a second thought. But as you'll see, there was just so many weird and wonderful things. And when you start talking, they go, well, that's a bit weird. And they get progressively madder as this video goes on. And that made me stop and think, what is behind all this? And the information I found out about the United Nations and the EU only suggests one thing, and that is the immigration. You think it's bad now? It's going north. And I'll show you at the end of the video, because the first 15-20 minutes is going to be my own personal experiences, and the last 10 or 15 minutes will be me showing you the proof of what to back up what I'm suggesting is going to happen in Europe. And if Europe gets worse for people coming in to that in the Schengen zone, we know that the majority who arrive are hell-bent on coming to the United Kingdom. And the chaos that I showed you a month ago when I went myself to Cali, that ain't going to get better. And all the one-in, one-out deals and all the nonsense that Starmer wants to tell you he's doing with the Germans to try and stop the popes and all that carry on, ain't going to work. Because some people have already decided what happens next. And then what happens next is frightening. But the maddest thing about what happens next is they've actually already told us. All the information I'm going to show you at the end of this video is already out there in the public domain. We just didn't see it. Some people have, to be fair. So anyway, what happened? Well, I went out and I wanted to document people arriving in the EU. So I decided that Lesbos, the first weird thing was, Lesbos about 2013 exploded as an immigration arrival point for people into the EU. And the crescendo of that was around about 2020, when the Moria camp in the southeast of the island went on fire. And at that point, it was in the news all the time. Every time you turned on the news, maybe once a week at least, you would see something about the issues in Lesbos and other Greek islands, to be fair, but predominantly Lesbos. And then there was a fire, and that's spooky and peculiar, and I've done a video while I was out there. I've already put out 3 videos about this trip, and I'll tag them in at the end for those that are interested. And I've been hearing that it was still a thing. That's why I wanted to go. And also, before I got there, we heard, if you want to Google it and find all these NGOs and charities telling you how shocking the centre is that's used for asylum seekers, reception centre on the island is. It's terrible. It's overcrowded. It's a prison and all this nonsense. Well, I blow that myth as well, because it's not that. Quite the opposite. It's not even overcrowded. So that's what I went to the court. And the first thing that I noticed, and I'm just going to take you through the chronological order of the 4 days. I know everything I've done because I've already put the videos out with the stuff I was able to tell you, and I felt comfortable telling you while I was still on that island. I'm not on the island anymore. I'm in England now. And now I feel I'm safe enough, or safer, that I can share it with you. And I'm not there myself. Okay? So I'm just going to go through a series of strange things that happened to me, and most of them I've got on camera while I was there, that made me feel very, very spooked at times, I must admit. And some of the ones at the start are just like, they're no massive, but I need to share them because they'll make sense when we get to the end. So the first thing is, bearing in mind there was a bit of me saying, well, people are saying that it can't be that big a problem now because, well, the mainstream media aren't covering it. And the first thing I flew in, the airport's way down the south east of the island, and the digs I'd booked were about 10 miles further up north of that. And so I left the airport, drove into Mytilene, which is it's a capital, for want of a better word. Beautiful harbour town. And I noticed 5 boats, which were Greek border force, but they were more like, they weren't full naval, like cruisers and stuff, right? But they were big boats, and they all had guns on them. No, like our border force that I've seen picking people at the English Channel, right? And I thought, there's quite a few of them here, so the problem must still be here. And then I drove further up the coast to get to my digs, and I came to what I didn't realise at the time is Kappa Tepe. Kappa Tepe was built in 2020 quite quickly because the Moria camp. Now, Moria camp was designed to hold 2,700 migrants. When it went in fire, it had just under 20,000, right? And what they'd done was, because it's Greece, and that's quite a big thing for their culture, they would just move in there. And they got raw materials, and they built tents and shacks and stuff. And they cut down 5,000 olive trees, which is enough to set you mad if you're a Greek. It's enough to get you upset if they happen to be your olive trees. And then the place went in fire. So they had to, and there's a video in that, right? If you want to watch that, the video, tag at the end of that. And then they had to have this Kappa Tepe place built pretty damn quick. And what we're told, and what I thought I was going out to see at Kappa Tepe, whenever I found it, I came across it by accident. It was 5 minutes from where I was going to stay. Was buses taking people in and out, and people walking about the local town who were quite evidently from the camp. And I spoke to some of them, and I spent a lot of time with one of them, a guy called Nelson from Cameroon, and he told me, well, he was walking about waiting for a bus, and I bumped into him, and I was like, Nelson, I thought this place was a prison. He's like, no, I showed my pass. He went, I've got this pass, can do what I want, go in and out when I want. So how do they treat you? It's like, they're brilliant. They feed us, they give us shelter, good to us, they get us clothes, they help us financially. He said, and it's great because there's plenty of space. It's like, I'm told it's overcrowded. Nope. He went, there's probably about 20% extra. He went, there's actually some, they didn't call them sheds, but they call them tents, can't remember how to describe the buildings. It's like, we're not in them. So anyway, I'm going forward a wee bit, I'll come back. So as I drove out the Mytilene, before I got to Kappa Tepe and saw these people, I forgot to mention, there was this big building just north of the port. It looked as if it was part of the port building complex. Heavy graffiti like shut Moria, which is shut now, so it must have been up for ages, and no borders and proper Antifa type stuff. And I came across more of this and even more extreme types of stuff, graffiti, as we go along the story. And I thought, well, that's a bit weird, because this place has been decimated because its main income would have came from tourism. And from 2013, when all around the world we started seeing these things, people started getting put off. So you would think people there wouldn't be mad woke lefty tree huggers that want, refugees welcome here signs. But they have. So there's a whole undercurrent of Antifa communism going on in that island. But it was never in my face. People I spoke to, all but one, had problems with the amount of immigrants coming to their island. But when you see the aesthetics and the optics of the place, you're like, well, where's this undercurrent from? Right? So there must be an underbelly in that place who are very refugee friendly, but I didn't find them, but I've seen plenty of evidence of them as I journeyed on. So that was kind of day one, right? And I was like, there's migrants wandering about, so they're not in a prison. People here are a bit lefty, and the border boats have got, like, guns. Big, scary guns, right? So the next day, I went over to the Mariah camp and done a wee 10-minute piece for there. You can watch that, tell me a bit more detail about the thing. And that was weird because it was big graffiti outside that, welcome to Europe and all that stuff, and just pretty bizarre. And it's a bizarre story. And then I wanted to, I went for a breakfast in a place just south of where we were staying, down the South Island. And the guy owned the cafe. I said, "Is that what you're doing?" I told him. I said, "I believe the immigrants are still coming and they're up to the north." And he went, "Yeah." And it's between two towns. There's 6.6 miles of coast between these two towns. And it's 6 miles from Turkey. Now, three sides of that island, the north, the south, and the east of the island, are surrounded by Turkey. You can see Turkey every time you look out to the sea. But the closest bit's up at the north, because it's only 6 miles. So I told him, I said, "I'm going up there." I went, "Well, I see migrants coming in." He's like, "Well, they come in every day." So it's seriously, because we're not hearing this in the rest of Europe. Coming every day. So what I decided to do was go up to the west side of the north coast, to the first village, and then travel to the east one, hug the coast, and see what I could see. So I went up to this, forgive me, I can't remember the name of it, beautiful, very small village. Got there, beautiful cobblestones, nice wee bits and bobs. I thought, I'm going to nick out and get a wee juice or bite to eat. When I jumped out of the car, I saw a boat hire place. And I went into the shop. I says, "How much is it to hire a boat?" He said, "With or without a captain?" I says, "Well, just me. Take the boat myself if I can. 4 hours, €100, pay for your own fuel, cost you about £20 in euros, €20 in fuel." Okay, that sounds good. "And can I get one now?" He went, "Yeah, what is it you want to do?" I says, "Well, I want to go out this harbour and turn right and take the boat 6 miles right across the north coast to see if I can see some migrants coming, or even if I don't see migrants. There's a shipwreck out there. There was a pretty bad situation happening in the shipwreck, but you can't get to the road that you kind of need to sail to it. And I'll at least get some footage of that. "Oh no, can't do that." "Why not?" He went, "You're wasting your time because no migrants come now." I went, "Well, hold on a minute." I went, "I've seen footage of migrants still coming here." "Oh yeah, but it only happens once or twice a year." And I thought, well, this is a guy whose income is dependent on tourists coming. So he's obviously not wanting tourists coming thinking the migrants are coming every day or they might not come. So he's quite happy with that story. And I thought, well, he's talking bollocks now. And totally different from what the guy at the south of the island's telling me. But anyway, turns out he refused to have the boat. And he told me that whole, if you go out there and turn right, it's a restricted area. You're not allowed boats in it. And to be fair, I don't think he was lying, because later on, once I got there, it tended to be that way. So anyway, I left the town boatless, and my sat-nav, I then put another town to go there, and my sat-nav was taking me away inland, away from the shoreline. I thought, well, there's a road there. So I asked it for options, and then it eventually gave me the wee coastal road, or what I thought was a road. And as you'll see here, it's not a road, it's a dirt track. But it was sometimes on the dirt track where you were hugging the coast at sea level, and other times just because of the way it is, the road had to go away from the coast and up quite steep hills, tight hairpins, all that sort of stuff. And it was a bit iffy, I need to be honest with you. But the next hour and a half, because it took me about an hour to drive the 6 miles because of the condition of the roads, were particularly mental. The things that I've seen started. This is my first full day in the place, and I'm thinking, this is a bigger story than my first thought. So I'll talk you through the stuff that I've got footage. Now, I come to the top of this hill. As you can see, you start seeing the sea across from you, and it's not giving you a great perception of how high up this is. It's really quite high. So this person that you can see up the top of the hill is looking out into the bay. And out of the 6 mile coast, that's probably in about a mile in, so you could probably see the rest of the other 5 miles. It's that high up. And as I got up close to her, I could see for a distance with my eyes, not the camera dash mounted camera isn't the most sharpest thing. But I could see some sort of logo on this shoulder. I could see a mouthpiece round this side. And I couldn't figure this out at the time, but I think I figured it out. She had more headphones than earpieces. And I think that might be something to do because they're sort of noise cancelling, and maybe when you're up there in the wind, it maybe makes sense to have these on rather than little pop-in ones that you'd expect someone who evidently looks as if they're some sort of security detail. And I came up towards her, and she made sure I couldn't see the logo or the mouthpiece. And I thought, well, that's weird. She's either protecting something, waiting for something, or whatever. So then the next thing, I got up to the brow of that, I turned round right, and I started. It was, again, it's deceiving what you're about to see because the gradient was far worse in real life than it seems on the camera. But you'll see with this footage will show you in real time, so this isn't slowed it down, and you'll see the almost snail pace that I'm going down this thing. I'm going down this in a normal car, no off-road and stuff, and I'm a bit concerned that I might not be on the road for long. So that's kind of what we've done. Now, as I get to the bottom of this, I came across this facility, which is like, I'm not saying it's hidden, they've got a sign up, but it's well off the beaten track. 99.9% of people on Ireland will never be up that street. In fact, it didn't dawn on me at the time, but I'll come to it later on how many people were actually on this road in the hour that I was traversing it, right? And as you can see, that this facility, out like in the middle of nowhere, but dead handy for where the boats come in, is operated under the auspices of 3 people: the Greek government, the UNHCR, which is the United Nations Refugee Programme, and the EU. The last 2 I'll talk about in a lot of depth at the end here. And I thought, well, that is really odd. And 100 yards up the road, at the top of the hill, there's somebody that looks as if they're secure. What is it they're doing? Who are they looking for? Who are they waiting to meet? What is it they're doing? And I kind of started feeling, well, this is a bit more than what I was expecting. This is me, I'm not even there 24 hours at this point. This is my first full day, probably just after lunchtime. And I'm starting to get the vibe that this place is a bit weird. Now, this next shot, right, this is maybe nothing to do with the UN, nothing to do with EU, nothing to do with even migrate, I don't know, right? But so I went up the hill, saw the woman, down the bottom of the hill, saw this thing, turned the hairpin, went down to the bottom further to get to near sea level, and came across this. And it was a mad shack, right? I think you can only see 1 or 2 here, but there was 3 old battered pickup trucks, right? It was like something out of the deep south, ding, 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 right? And I thought, don't get a puncture here, big guy, right? Whatever happens, please don't get a puncture, because I'm out of my comfort zone here, right? So anyway, that might not have anything to do with the full story, but it was just another thing to give you an idea about why I was feeling probably a bit spooked by this point. Now, this is all within an hour, right? I'll tell you when we're out of that hour and a half once we get there, but this was the maddest hour and a half of the trip. Now, another thing I noticed along here when you got to the bits that were at sea level, you've got a lot of foliage and stuff on the left, and at one point it was these really big high things, these things here, I don't know, like big reeds, right? I don't know what they're called, right? And that went on for like maybe a mile, these things. And I did stop and get the car at one of them, because there was man-made clearance every so often. Now, the man-made clearance only for folk to go on the beach, because let me tell you what you see when you go through there. There's about 3 feet it tits up to 10 times, and it's just all pebbles, and then the sea. So you couldn't sunbathe on it, you couldn't lie in it, because your ass would be in the water and your head would be in the road, right? So why are, now, and there's a boating restriction here, so there's nobody going and putting boats in the water from here into the sea. The only thing I can think of, these man-made clearances, were to get people out the sea. And I saw 2 instances, and I didn't record this now, but I thought I had, but I must have made an arse of it, right? There was 2 instances where there was definitely tablet fires, which were started deliberately and controlled, because they were all perfectly round shape, and nowhere near any houses. Nobody's having barbecues here, right? And all I can figure out is, and this is me guessing, but potentially be used for guiding boats in at night. Set a wee fire, go to the fire. We've got a clearing, because they were at the mouth of these clearances, right? You with me? So this looks as if it's planned from this side going out. Then something peculiar happened that I'll come back to, right? Now, the place, as I say, is surrounded by Turkey, and the vast majority of cars I've seen were Greek registered cars, and you've got a GR code on the left of their registration plate. And I've seen a fair few TRs, that's Turkey, because it's like 45 minutes an hour on the ferry, and you can come for Turkey and have a nice holiday, so easy enough, and it's no cheap. I looked at maybe doing it, and if I had any more time, I was going to try and go to Turkey and try and catch footage of them coming the other side. Anyway, so it's no dear. So that'll be why you see a lot of Turkish cars. But earlier on in this day, excuse me, as I got to the north of this town, the island, that's a bit weird. It was a Swiss number plate. Now, I genuinely don't remember the car. This thing shouted out Swiss. It's a bit weird. And the Swiss number plate's a wee bit different the way it's made up. It's got 2 shields, the red and white cross one is sort of more evident one. And the other one's a region within Switzerland. So I went, Swiss plate? That must be some trek driving for Switzerland here. And then at the end of, when I got at the end of this dirt track into sort of civilization again, they're quite a small town, couple of maybe tavernas, and a beach area. The only beach area that was inhabited by normal people is at the end, right? And I thought, it's another Swiss car. It was a beautiful big dark blue BMW Jeep type size, right? With Swiss plates. I thought, oh, I've now seen 2 Swiss plates at the north of this island in the space of an hour. I've got 2 nutters that have driven for Switzerland, right? Remember Switzerland. I'm going to tell you a third story about a car for Switzerland. I'm in it, and remember Switzerland at the end, right? So I've now done my coastal route. I'm a bit spooked with what I've seen, and I want to get back to my hotel room. So I'm then driving the normal roads through some lovely, the middle bit's a bit hilly, through some lovely towns and stuff in the mountains to get to my destination. And see the Greeks and the Turks, right? They're quite funny about you taking photos of some sort of establishments, which is another reason why I didn't feel comfortable putting some of this stuff out while I was still on the island. And I was just minding my business and enjoying my drive. It's just this thing with barbed wire and stuff, right? I thought, what the hell's that? So I drove past it, and then I seen it, the giveaway sign, the don't take any photographs sign, right? So at this point I'm past it, and I drove on, it was a safety U-turn, and I U-turned, it was this wee village up the mountains, and I started driving back the way I came, and I was, just as I turned the car, I was confronted with this. And this is, naked none. The communist emblem will probably give you an idea, but the abbreviation of that is the Greek Communist Party. And I'm thinking, it's across the road from a military facility. That kind of wouldn't happen in many places. So it gave me more clues to this apparent undercurrent of leftism, communism, socialist and all that kind of, right? But the people I spoke to weren't like that at all. It's kind of weird. Anyway, I got to this facility and it was a bit weird because there was nobody there, but it was all like the gate was there, and you know, and I say there was nobody there. There was like a couple of people in it, right? But it was pretty big, and all the vehicles in it were like Second World War age. Now I did bump into soldiers out and about later on in my travels, and they were driving like modern things, right? But this stuff seemed like for the 50s. It was just a bit bizarre, and the communist thing across for it, that really got me. But then one of the sort of weirdest things that happened that day, something really weird happened the next day, right? But that day, out of all this weirdness, something particularly weird happened. And it's when I went back to the village that was just past this military compound. And, wow, what do I see? As I come in, I see another dark blue BMW Jeep style car with Swiss plates. And now, it can't be the same one that I seen back at this beach area, right? Because it was parked up, nobody was in it, I've drove past it, and there's only one road, right? And he's not overtook me, right? Because nobody had overtook me on that road. And I forgot about something, by the way, in the beach. I'll need to go back in time in a wee second. And as I was coming out of this village up in the mountains, there's this BMW, a different BMW with Swiss plates. And I thought, well, if this is going to start being a theme of Swiss fancy motors out of this gaff, I'm going to start trying to record the reg number so that I don't count them twice. But as you'll see in this video, quite clearly in this video, when I got close to it, it's just up here, there's a right turn. And I'm just getting close enough to him here. And something weird happened right about here, and you'll see my car done that. If you ever have your car lose power and it does that, it's exactly what happened to my car. I drove for 4 days and never lost power any other time in the 4 days. I don't know how that happened. And then you'll see, okay, I think he's gone. Disappeared. The Swiss car is out of town. Remember, Swiss, right? And I forgot there's another bit of footage. I only passed one car the whole time I was on this coastal road. And I actually didn't realise it at the time. It was only when I was editing the footage and stuff that I realised that's the only car that I've seen. I meant to show you. It was your standard people carrier with a dart out windies. And this was about a mile further on from where the UN facility was, up the dirt track, and the guard 100 metres away. So I can only think that this people carrier with the dart out windies wasn't going for a jolly like me, was doing it for a purpose, and was either going to that facility or that's what this guard was waiting on. I can only surmise. But that was another strange, weird thing. Now, all these weird things were starting. So this was day one, and I'm like, this is bonkers, isn't it? So now we get to day two. And what I decide to do in day two is the UN are spending 70 or 80 million euros to build a new reception area for the immigrants right bang in the centre of the island, in a place called Fartia, right? So I set off the next this would have been Thursday. This would be Friday, beg your pardon. And I put it on my sat nav and off I pop. Because I'm in the southeast, there's two routes. One comes in that direction, ends up south. Well, there was one slightly longer route that took you up to the west side of the island and then to the west. So I decided to do the quickest one, right? And guess what? It was a bloody roads again, the dirt track roads, right? But these dirt track roads were actually at some points even worse than the ones the day before up at the coastal road. And I'm going, how can you operate this facility? It's not opened yet, by the way. Now, this facility was to replace the temporary one at Capatepe, and it's apparently getting built to receive 5,000 people. But the one that was 3,000 people before ended up with 20,000, so you kind of know where this is going. But the one that they've already got isn't overflowing because they're saying, well, we need it because that's overflowing. And that's no temporary anymore, by the way. That one's now a permanent site. So they're obviously going to be having a lot more people coming, or they wouldn't be building this big thing in the centre of the island. Now, the United Nations refugee people have got a 10 billion euro budget, right? And they're building one of these in Lesbos, and they're building another 4 spread across various islands in Greece. Spending fortunes on them. Reception centres. There's nobody coming, you don't need them, right? So this one, and it's these dirt tracks again. So this footage will show you here. I get into this start of the forest. This isn't the most dense bit of the forest, by the way. And there's this pickup truck on the right hand side of the road. And I was like looking at the sat nav at times, thinking, if I go left or right here. So I drove up, got to it, had a wee look, and it was another female, right? And then I was like, I need to go left here. So I went up left, hairpins, because we're climbing and climbing and climbing. The forest is getting more dense. But I'm about a mile away from this facility that I want to go and see. I just want to see this, get a sense of the scale of this thing. And came up, now I've not got it, but this bit here that I'm showing you is kind of where it was getting a bit dicey with the road. And I came up to a bit that was a fork. So as I'm coming towards it, and I'm thinking, there's no left or right on my sat nav. So it gets to this fork in the road, and I'm about a mile away, but the forest is getting denser, the road is getting narrower. And at that precise moment, I lost my radio, I lost my mobile phone, I lost my sat nav. I lost every communication in that car. Like that. All at the same time. And I thought, shit, I don't want to proceed here because I've got a 50-50 chance of getting it wrong. And if anything, God forbid, happens to me up here, I can't call for help. And it's the type of roads that, these hilly roads, when you're not on a motorway, there's no barrier and stuff, right? And I thought, nah, I'm getting out of Dodge. I proper lost it, right? And the next weird thing, I reversed to do a 3-point turn. And as I reversed, guess what appeared? The pickup truck. A quarter mile down the road. As I reversed, the pickup truck came here. We were sitting on the left-hand side, remember, left-hand drive. The window went down, and the woman sort of went that way or that way. And I went that way. To which? She gave me a thumbs up, a salute, and a thumbs up again. And she went that way. I don't know who she was. Don't know what she was doing in that forest. But I passed her 3 minutes earlier. And she seemed quite happy that I was going that way. So, trying to think there's anything else. So that was kind of, there was another incident I'm not even going to go into, right? Because it was that total bonkers with a copper, right? And there was another instance where I kind of think I just was spooked and I shat it. Something happened in the hotel. So they two I'm just going to leave out, right? But they were pretty bonkers as well. But I kind of think that they were totally unrelated to what was going on. So that's let me tell you about some spooky stuff. Now I want to tell you about what I found out when I started investigating the spooky stuff. Open ears, open your mind. When I was down at Capitepi, I seen there was a woman walk past me. I found out where the cars were, where the staff were parked. I was trying to get a hand on when he was there and whatever. And this woman walked past me with this thing I'd never seen before called Frontex, which is the EU's border and Coast Guard. Right? I thought, well, who are they? When I seen the name at first, I thought it would be like a G4S. Some people that they employed to maybe look after the gates. Right? Wrong. Frontex is a standing army that the EU have got, 2,500 strong, who've been in the go since about 2007. Who, listen carefully, have got a new gaffer. Now, the last gaffer, they thought he was too close and too similar to the Greek army, who they're not too happy with, right? The cuddly left ones, because they were like turning boats back and stuff, right? So the original guy, or the last guy from Frontex, get popped. And they brought in a guy called Lippmann, who's Dutch, and he seems to have a very, very good military career. Now, he's already told us that he is going to change the whole ethos of Frontex. So Frontex, they've got people in Greece, because I've seen them. They've got people in Bulgaria. I think they've got people in Poland, certainly their head office is Poland. And they've got a wee bit of activity in Spain and Italy, where there's like condensed areas of migration. And he's told these other countries already that he's going to deal with asylum seekers in the correct manner, i.e. respect, don't have them dangerous, and use every law that you should, i.e. we need to welcome you. But he's also told the nations in the EU who they are working within and they're meant to work with alongside. So already told them that they will be sanctioned if they don't do what he wants. So you're kind of losing your own sovereignty of your borders, because the EU are deciding. Now, to be fair, when they started, they were very much push back, protect the borders. But they're taking a mad swing just now, and that's where Lippmann comes in. And Lippmann, as I say, has told us about the sanctions. He's also told the foot soldiers that he understands that when things are done wrong, or your comrades are doing things bad, to stop them can be difficult. So he's told, don't stop them, but come and report it so we can change the whole ethos of this organisation. But to try and change the ethos of an organisation 2,500 strong would be no easy task. But here's the kicker. He, between now and 2027, is increasing the numbers in that army to 10,000. So when you change the personnel, quadruple it, with people you pick, you're changing the ethos of that organisation immediately. So let's put them aside just for a second. Just before I do that, actually, there was something that I came across which was a bit bonkers. Right, the funding when this started in 2015, this Frontex, has went up 13,200%. Between 2001 and 2007, its budget was 5.6 billion, so about 700,000 a year. In 2024, it was just under a billion, and it will be raised up to 1.27 billion per year by 2027. A money print machine. And is going to have 10,000 border guards. Frontex budget supports its expanded mandate include the development of its standing corps of 10,000 border guards. Okay? And more than 1.27 billion budget. So let's put them aside just for a second. Let's talk about the other emblem that I started seeing quite a lot of, the UNHCR, the refugee people. They are building an £80 million centre in Lesbos that you can't find. And weird things happen to your cars when you go looking for them. But I believe it's a thing, because I've seen footage of it from the sky, right? And I've seen something suggest that there is a road getting built into it that they'll need to sort of get it fully operational. They're building 5 of these across the Greece. And their budget is 10 billion and rising every year. So what happens here is you've got the people on the left-hand side, Frontex, who make the decision on who gets in and who doesn't get into the country. And the people on the right are the ones that say, well, we want the refugees in because they're running for danger and all this stuff, right? Guess who signed a cooperation agreement recently under the new gaffer, Lightman? And guess, remember what I told you to remember 20 minutes ago, guess where the UNHCR refugee people's headquarters are? And these two people have signed a cooperation agreement. So what's going to happen next? Within the next 3 years, these centres will all be open. UNHCR need to kind of fill them to keep the funding coming, because that's all these charities and NGOs need all the time. They start off with, sometimes with good intentions, and we just need to feed the monster. And the people that decide who gets in and who doesn't get in just signed a cooperation deal with them. And they've already laid their cards out. We want to be more refugee friendly. So the EU is digging its own grave. But the maddest thing is, through talking to the boy from Cameroon that I had in my car for 20 minutes the other day while I was on the island, he tells me that the vast majority of people in those camps ultimately want to reach the United Kingdom. So the carnage and the chaos that I filmed last month in Cali, where the seas of people want to come across the channel, is not going to get better. Mark my words. Because Frontex, who control the borders, and I'll tell, and take that power straight off the countries involved, like your Bulgarias and your Greces and your whatevers, right? And they're going to end up with 4 times the amount of border guards in the next 2 years. I've done a pally-wally cooperation agreement with the mob. They get £10 billion a year to look after the refugees. Do you think the mob with the £10 billion per year budget want to stop refugees? The whole thing is an absolute scam. And the good people of Europe are getting played like a fiddle. And the better people, in my eyes, of Great Britain are going to get the brunt of it, because the vast majority of these people want to come here. And Keir Starmer with his Macron deals and the 131s and the German deals that they're going to stop the boats for us, apparently, all this nonsense. I'm not wearing it, and neither should you. I hope you enjoyed my video. And thank you very much to lots of people who helped me on the Go Buy Me a Coffee page. Because I think it's just over £1,000 the trip cost me. And I thought, people are really generous, I might recoup maybe £300-400 of that. Recouped about £700 out of £1,000. And maybe a wee touch more actually. So a few donations came in tonight. So thank you very much, folks. I'm about £200 out of pocket for this trip. I can live with that. But thanks very much for the generosity. I would suggest that you get all your pals to watch this video and share it far and wide. Please do that. If you've not already, subscribe to the channel. Please do that as well. The most important thing, unless you're the type of person who's taking the controls off the countries, the sovereignty off the countries in the EU, and the people who are £10 billion a year to look after the refugees, who need refugees to keep the budget coming, unless you're these people, and know you. But everyone else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.